Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features Zach Law, which is me, oddly enough, talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist. And there's me playing at the same time. Nice. Echo, 3, 2, 1, just kidding. This is episode number 112. We go live, so whatever happens, happens. I'm recording live on September 21st, 2017. I would like to thank last week's guest, Michael Schaefer. Reasonable Risk is a hell of a show and worth your valuable time. Check him out. So tonight's guest, Natalie Newell, is the co-host of the Science Enthusiast Podcast. That's singular because there are two people doing one enthusiastic thing. Anyway, took her science mom superpowers and met with Dan Broadbent, who is a science enthusiast, and did the supergroup thing. And that was super 2 times in a sentence, now 3. Yikes. They interview people. I interview people. They talk about it. I kick back and drink after the show. Let's see if I can steal her powers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was a super introduction.
And it's a little later than usual, so I will be going with water tonight. Sorry for the people who expect, the booze, but...
So you're already letting people down. And I have to do a good job because you're just letting your audience down from the beginning.
You have to be even better than my normal guest, which will, I feel you have that within you. And maybe to help you get started, we will start with our usual out of context quotes from you. Everyone's a little bit racist. Please don't go to Milwaukee and become a Nazi. I want to peel some film.
Oh, God.
Don't be a fucking dick.
That's something I would say anytime, I think. Yeah.
And every day wake up and scream your dreams into a garbage can where they belong.
You've done your homework. You've listened to the really weird stuff I say.
That is true. So my usual first question, what is your own personal religious background?
My personal religious background, I was Catholic-ish growing up. I never remember my family being super religious, but I think it was part of the Italian-American sort of tradition of we went to church, I went to Catholic school, right. And eventually just stopped going to church. Sort of deal. My sister and I both went all the way through confirmation time. So around age 15 is when I think got confirmed, whatever. Because that was just a thing you had to do, I guess, according to mom and dad. And then after that, just, nobody wanted to go to church anymore. I don't think my parents wanted to go to church anymore. So we all, I think collectively, it was probably around some Christmas Eve, but especially by the time I was in college and was starting to just drink wine with my family and stuff on the holidays. And we all just decided, let's just start drinking earlier and not go to Christmas Eve church. And the rest is just heathen history, I guess. I don't think anybody in my family believes in God anymore. So did anybody ever really is a good question.
So the confirmation, you dress up little kids like they're getting married?
No, that's communion.
I'm confused to that. It was the creepiest thing I've ever been to in my life because it was like, no, we're really eating and drinking the blood of our Lord and Savior. And the kids were like, cool.
Yeah, you dress up, an 8-year-old or so. I mean, because I have pictures of myself from my first communion. Little frilly dress, frilly white socks, a veil. And yeah, when you look back on it, when you're older, you're thinking, what the fuck? Like, they married me to Jesus and made me eat him. So, I mean, some weird cannibalistic wedding ritual, sort of. Catholicism's weird. Religion's weird.
Maybe there are more people who are just in it for the good schools, because my nephew went all the way through and graduated from middle school, and they do the communion thing as part of the graduation ceremony. And a few of the kids actually did the whole cross thing, which I never, why would you walk up like that? Sorry, I'm in there mostly. So I thought, a few of them are probably just in there because the school's good. Ignore that one class you have to take and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently they're going to do a class where they actually taught what miracles are real or not. I'm like, I want to know what that is because no one's really ever explained that, but go for it.
I went all the way through Catholic high school. I went to like all girls Catholic high school. And the reason I went to Catholic schools was because the schools in my hometown just were not great. And I had grandparents who would pay for Catholic school. And that was, the road my parents decided to take for us. And, like and thinking back too, because sometimes when I say I went to Catholic, especially high school, you're like, oh shit, were you just indoctrinated with all the religion and stuff? I don't know if my experience was just fairly chill. Like we had religion class, but it never, I don't know. It always felt more about the school and the academic stuff and all the other, I don't know, kind of good high school parts than just, being close to Jesus.
And the Catholics were early on like the evolution train. They're like, sure, we're in there. We're good.
Yeah, my high school was super science oriented and just I think fairly progressive in that sense where they weren't denying, anything crazy. They were not Ken Hamming it and thinking that the world is just thousands of years old and that's it. So I guess I was fortunate. As far as a religious background going, mine was, it was never a huge part of my life, even though I was at a religious place every day, pretty much. But I guess that comes down to my family too, not pushing. We didn't pray at home or anything like that.
Well, there you go.
There we go.
And everyone lived happily ever after.
And everyone lived happily ever after. And, my parents know that I talk about atheism and, God, the other stuff I talk about on the podcast that my parents just know I say terrible things. So it's not a surprise to them. So I've got parents that understand how many times I've said the word foreskins on podcast.
I think my parents know I say terrible things because I told them about this show, but I have a feeling they've never watched. That's just a guess. Yeah. Wild guess. Okay, so Science Enthusiast Podcast. Who put together the cat logo that you have? Because that's one of my favorite podcast logos.
It's such a good logo. And we, I think Dan stumbled across this sort of stock image of the cat. And we had a friend, Devin, who did the first couple episodes of the show with us. And he's the one who is pretty good with graphic design and everything. And he put together the actual nerdy cat science-y logo. And I love our cat logo. As
a cat person, I'm with you.
I mean, I'm not even a cat person, and I'm super into our logo. I'm a pug person, so cats are okay.
So you could dress your dog in like tuxedos and stuff, and the dog's like, sure.
Yeah, he's had a hot dog costume before. He's had a pumpkin costume. He's real cute. Gilbert is his name, and he's adorable.
Nice.
Yeah.
So both you and Dan, the co-hosts of the show, like you had kind of built-in audiences. So what did it make you to say, hey, let's put together and, do like a kind of super group podcast?
I love that you're calling it a super group. I will have to tell Dan that we're now a podcast super group, and I'm really going to embrace that idea. So we had our own pages and projects. He's always had the Science Enthusiast page. I had my page for Science Moms, and we met in just as you do on the internet, just in a group where people have Facebook pages and share content and all of that. And he and I became friends. We met in real life at the Nexus Skeptic Conference in New York that was, I guess, May 2016. And up till then, we had just had lots of good conversations. And I think hanging out in real life solidified that we wanted to just see if we could take some of the conversations we had about science, but a lot of the religion conversations we had just felt like things we wanted to share if we could, just see if a few people would listen. And the week after Nexus, we put out or at least recorded our first episode, and then, just kind of kept going from there. And we've put out an episode almost every week since, but it was just us thinking like, we're having conversations that we find kind of interesting. Let's let other people hear them. And then it only took an episode or two to decide we want to use this as a great excuse to talk to interesting, cool people. And we started having guests on. And we've had a guest almost every episode, other than the few times we've just rambled on about whatever current event thing. Yeah. It's just friends deciding we wanted to do a thing together.
But isn't that the way sometimes with podcasting? It's like some of the people I talk to, I don't know if I could just say, hey, let me call you up and talk to you. But like, hey, I'm on a podcast. They're like, sure, I'll be on and talk to you for an hour, because it's still a small, relatively small community. So pretty much everybody's amenable to being on a show. It's just a matter of scheduling in some cases.
Yeah. And that was like the real pleasant surprise when we started was I would ask people, like, I still remember when we were fairly new last summer, and I emailed Lawrence Krauss just on this sort of off chance, oh, maybe he'll want to talk to us sometime months from now, or he'll never respond to me. And people just want to talk about their stuff. He emailed me back, and we had something scheduled for like 2 days from then. And I remember Dan and I just thinking like, oh, let's just not fuck this up. He's kind of a big person, and I don't think we fucked it up. So we kept going from there. But it's just cool how willing people are to come on and have these conversations. Because I mean, well, yeah, you've done over 100 episodes, so it's cool, right? Just to get to have big conversations, not just small talk about the weather or shit like that.
I'm probably never going to run out of people to talk to, and once I gave up the whole like, oh, I can't talk to somebody twice, I'm done with you. It's like, no, people change and they have more projects and they have other things to talk about. Yeah. And sometimes just real life stuff pops up. You know, when other people do interviews that are cool, I want to get them on, and we'll be getting there very shortly. But so what do you think, what's like your elevator pitch for the podcast? What would you say to someone, you know, just a quick like, hey, here's what our show's all about?
Oh man, I feel like I like what Dan has written somewhere on the internet, but it's
somewhere on the internet.
Somewhere on the internet. In some dark place on the internet where we keep all of our podcasts. It's science, skepticism, atheism, internet memes, and us telling God stories that have to do with bodily fluid a lot more frequently than they should. So we're definitely a little irreverent, I guess. And I think it's just the two of us being us. And yeah, because I've had people meet me, you know, having listened to the show, and they're just like, yeah, that's kind of how you talk, isn't it? That's you. For better or worse, the show is me and Dan, just being me and Dan.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have the time to get, like, sometimes when a show's been on for a while, it's fun to listen to the first and the last episode. I've only listened to the last couple episodes. So have you kept kind of a similar format from the beginning where you kind of talk to each other about a few subjects and then bring on a guest?
Yeah, so we...
hand motions that you can't see in a podcast?
We hand motion, yeah, we, you know, exit stage right and then bring on a new thing. And yeah, so we do, yeah, our first, like, the intro to the podcast is Ken Ham talking about us, which we did not have from the beginning. And I just love Ken Ham talking about a couple of atheists, because he played one of our... Are you talking about
you in particular, or just atheists?
He was talking about me and Dan in our podcast, because he played... I'll send you a link, but he played video of us and Andrew Seidel from Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ken played video of us at one of his Ark Encounter staff meetings.
Oh, right.
And then he posted the video of him talking about us on his website. Because we did an episode where we were talking about the failing Ark Encounter, and he didn't like that. So yeah, he gave us the greatest gift of him talking about us that we now use as our intro. But so that was not there from the beginning, but we were really happy when we did get that. We always do, just kind of talk back and forth a little bit at the beginning. Then we do a God of the Week where we just talk about, that's kind of me finding different God stories, mythology, that kind of thing, because they're all equally ridiculous and false and made up. And so we just it's just a, like, ridiculous story time kind of thing. Then we do an interview. So that's the best part, because we involve somebody else who is usually smarter and funnier than us, you know, who provides some good content. Then we do, we have a segment called Why We Love the Internet, where that's where when you pulled the quote out of context about me talking about peeling film, we find things like Reddit, or what, I don't know, what are Reddit things called? Are they threads? I don't know Reddit, but like
could be
topics on Reddit, or Twitter accounts, or Instagram accounts, or weird Facebook meme pages that we just talk about, because the internet's a weird, sometimes funny place, sometimes terrible place, but whatever. And then quote of the week, which I just always find something. I probably have used Carl Sagan quotes more than, I don't know. Well, can anyone ever have too much Carl Sagan? I don't really know. No, the answer is no. And then
the answer is always no.
The answer is always no. And then we just kind of banter until I tell Dan we need to hang up and stop it. So that's a typical episode for us. And we record the interviews just whenever we schedule them. So we don't do it all in one shot. It's right now we have a backlog, I think, of maybe 7 or 8 interviews kind of ready to put out over the next months, I guess.
I'm impressed by you planning ahead, people. I'm like, I got someone this week, and I might have someone in a couple weeks, but not next week. Not yet.
So this is different. You do, like, this is your full show, is doing the live thing. So it's different. We have those other segment things that we don't.
Segment things.
Segment things.
I try. So do you have a favorite God of the week, or you could just talk about, let's see, what was the one 2 episodes ago, I think, because you didn't do one at the hurricane. But there was one as like a South American goddess, and I think cocaine was involved.
Was that the one that had something to do with chocolate?
Could have been, yeah.
Was it but it was something where I'm totally blanking on it, but I know that it involved her getting cut in half.
Right, because
she had all different guys that were going after her, and they decided, let's cut her in half. But then the story had to do with essentially being rewarded for sexually pleasuring a woman. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was like you got cocaine. I don't know if it'd be better to get it before or after sex. It's hard to say.
But I think in the story you got it after. I think it was sort of like the cigarette after sex.
Keep you awake.
I guess. Because all of these stories make so much sense. I don't know how this works, but I think that was the story. I remember doing one about was it? I'm forgetting which god it was, but the story had to do with a golden dick. One of the Egyptian gods, like his body got scattered. Like he got killed, his body parts got scattered all over Egypt, and then his wife put him back together, but there wasn't, she couldn't find the dick. So she made a golden one and then had sex with him, with the dead body. So these are the stories I tell, because why not? But yeah, that was one that I feel like from that point on, there was pressure to, where do you go from talking about a dildo made out of gold, really?
Well, one thing I like about the story is it reverses the usual story of like the man not being able to find the female genitalia, but it's the other way around.
She couldn't find it.
Where to go? I have no idea.
She's like, I'll make one of my own out of gold.
Well, yeah,
and
that's the ingenuity.
As one does. Yeah. Yeah. So she was resourceful. She did her thing, and yeah. So these are the kinds of stories that I tell, because we, why not? And the audience sometimes has suggested gods for us to choose from. So it's great. And I'm never going to run out. Like, we can do this show forever. There's always going to be.
True.
There's always a god. Yeah.
There's always another god. Like, there's always another rapture prediction, which I think is 2 days from now. Man,
yeah. Aren't we? Well, yeah. But I mean, I guess we probably wouldn't get raptured though, right?
Who knows? Maybe there's it's a big joke. Like, no, the people don't believe. Those people go. Haha.
The true skeptics are going to get raptured, and then I don't think so.
So for my show, I usually drink during the show. I encourage my guests to drink and the people listening to drink. Do you recommend the same for your show unless someone's operating a motor vehicle?
Oh yeah, I think we are probably better under the influence of alcohol for our listeners. So if you ever go back and listen to the first few episodes, I think we're definitely kind of drunk for those. Then I got more serious about my podcasting. I don't know, just didn't.
It's like sometimes you have certain guests and you're talking about certain topics. You're like, maybe it's not appropriate. Of course, me saying it's inappropriate. I don't know, but that happens.
Who are some of your favorite guests that you've had on your show?
Well, it was good to get, Noah and Heath. That was before Eli joined the Scathing Atheist. Mm-hmm. Of course, they were both in. It still blew my mind that these two guys who definitely didn't speak like people from Georgia were living in Valdosta. So I'm in Atlanta, Southern Georgia. That's middle of nowhere. So to get them on, and actually they were big football fans, and I do like a football show, so it was a weird crossover. And they were, of course, some people are guests and they might have canned answers, and you're kind of like, all right, they've said this 100 times, but they were ready, which was cool. Yeah. And I'm sad that I don't think she's active on Twitter anymore, but the only Georgia member of the was it the Secular Therapist Project? I had her on, I think, episode 8. And it was just cool to hear from a therapist who was secular and had worked with religious cults and stuff like that. And occasionally getting a guest that other people don't get, because we do rotate through our own shows quite a lot, and nothing wrong with that. But occasionally you go, oh, let me get somebody that hasn't been on. So it's been, definitely a gamut throughout and a constant. Right, we'll run it first, gods or guests. I don't know about that. We'll have to get out and get together. Now, you came up with the term, I can't remember if it was you or Dan, but what is a dick whistle? What had this come up?
I don't know. Wait, when did we say that? Because
1 or 2 episodes ago, you're referring to a pastor and calling them a dick whistle.
It must. I'm going to give Dan credit for that, because I mean that sounds like a great, just put together curse word. Why not call somebody a dick whistle? And I think that why not? But I think that's Dan. Oh, in the early episodes of our show, before we had the Ken Ham intro, we would have, this podcast contains language that isn't appropriate for children, including, and we would just come up with whatever, ridiculous combinations of swears that we could think of. And dick whistle sounds like that would have fit really well in one of those earlier episodes. Then sometimes we would have guests think of their own swears. My friend Miles Power, when he did his episode with us, I think one of his swears, it was just weird. He said man giblets. I don't know what that really means. Does that mean balls?
It's a good question.
Maybe. That's what I'm going to guess it was. But yeah, so I think we just try to introduce creative language. One of our best iTunes reviews, I think, said that we used artful cursing. So, we're not family friendly, but we want to at least do it artfully.
Yeah, it seems like most shows, I remember the old days of Dogma Debate where anyone would curse and he'd get mad because he was trying to do non-cursing shows and having on cognitive dissonance and scathing atheism. There's some people who can hold it back, but why would you? So it's all cool. Now I'm going to do my first live read. I'm doing a storytelling class. I'm going to tell a really short story, and we'll get back to the interview here, because I don't do this audio crap, so I just talk. So this is a weird time of year for me. So about 16 years ago, I entered the Emory University Hospital, and I was diagnosed at first with double pneumonia. Turned out to be a blood clot and a staph infection. Lucky me. 6 weeks later, 3 of them in a medically induced coma. I got out, thanks not to Jesus or God or Yahweh or some South American god of tits and wine. It was doctors and nurses and family and friends who helped me. And if I had died, imagine this. I never would have heard of Sargon of Akkad, and I wouldn't have really lived. So this week, the big controversy in the atheist community, Mythicist Milwaukee conference coming up a week from this weekend.
Yeah. But
nobody had the man giblets to interview them. How did this come together? And I tend to ask every question at once. So let's just say, what made you decide, hey, why don't we actually talk to the people putting this together?
Okay, well, first of all, excellent use of man giblets. That was seamless. That was some artful cursing. So Mythicist Milwaukee. My gosh, I never expected to talk so much about a conference that I'm not even going to, first of all. But yeah, so the reason that I guess even knew about the existence of this conference is because we recently had Ron Miscavige. I interviewed him for my show, the former Scientology guy.
The father of the guy who's running
Miscavige. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's been around. I've heard him on a few shows, but I don't know. Sometimes it's good to have it. And what is he in his 80s? And he goes. You can just let him go. He'll talk.
That guy is just, yeah.
Lots of passion too. Cool.
I had such a good time talking to him. Just fascinating guy, so much to tell, and obviously just really passionate about getting his message out there, having been in that church for 4 decades. But anyways, his booking agent, Sean, is one of the organizers of MythCon and one of the Mythicist Milwaukee guys. And so I remember it was the night that I was interviewing Ron. That day I had seen all the stuff on Twitter and everything, like people talking about this conference and this Sargon, and I had no fucking idea. I don't really follow much on YouTube, so I just saw controversy and mentioned to Sean, hey, I hear you have a conference and the stuff's going on, and then just kind of left it there because this was weeks ago, I guess, at this point that I interviewed Ron, and then it started ramping up again. I feel like, what has this been the past week or so? Week, 2 weeks?
Seems longer, but it probably has been the last week or two because everything time slows down when
shit's going on.
Fight each other. And by the way, Mythicist Milwaukee, this is like their 3rd or 4th year of the conference, and I think they did the audio for like the Reason Rally, so they're pretty entrenched in this community. They're not just someone who just decided to do a conference and then it became this thing. They've never had guests like this before, as far as I know.
Yeah, so it clearly was becoming a thing again, and having just been in contact with Sean for another reason, we were seeing a lot of stuff being said about the guests. But then I guess for me, it was more when it seemed like, stuff was being said that perhaps these organizers are, racist, and the word white supremacist seems to get tossed around a lot.
Yeah, it seems easier to call somebody a Nazi. I forget what the term was, where someone call somebody Hitler, like
like Godwin's Law, like that, where you
it's a version of that. So you're not calling someone a Nazi. I mean, that's a pretty high thing, especially for association.
Yeah, so it's going there and seeing one of the comments somewhere on the internet, because I felt like I was going down a lot of comment thread rabbit holes, were calling the conference. I saw it called an alt-right training camp, things like that. So seeing that out there, Dan and I figured, let's talk to the people that are organizing it. And since I already had the connection, I asked Sean, has anybody else, invited you on a show to have this kind of conversation? And the answer was no. So I figured, why not us? I don't know, just like not even to try to be controversial, but more to just have a conversation, because it seems like with the internet, it's super easy to have these discussions, just out there in the open, but maybe not always having the conversation with, I don't know, the person that you really want to get to the bottom of their thoughts and ideas with. So we had the conversation. We had them on our podcast on Monday, and kind of, you listened to it, right? Us.
Yeah, I saw the YouTube version. I mean, it's this week's episode. It's what, number 64? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, 64. That's what we're at. Yeah.
Perfect.
So for me, looking at, doing some Google searches, looking at a few videos like Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, who, I just had not heard of before all of this. I mean, for me personally, not somebody that I would jump at the chance of interviewing, because he's said some pretty, I don't know, just ludicrous things. And did you Google him at all and look?
Yeah, I'd heard of him before. I feel like when I first got into podcast, he was a name that was out there, but I'd never really heard him. And it seems like, and maybe this has happened with a lot of personalities, is like all of a sudden this alt-right got really popular, and there was all these people who were wanting this content and who were just desperate to attack anybody that someone on the show would talk about.
Yeah.
And he got to be one of those people. Like, I'd only heard of Armored Skeptic, Shoe on Hit. I had no idea. Just know that they're dating. That's about all I got.
You got the behind the scenes.
You do the tour, I think, when you first start. But then now the tour is much deeper. Like, there's hundreds and hundreds of shows, maybe thousands. And it's hard to keep up. And the people who know all this detail, especially about YouTube atheists, is just like, you must spend your time embedded in this.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I really didn't know much about YouTube atheism, I don't think, before all of this, and this was maybe just even scratching the surface, because I still don't necessarily feel like I know totally, the story behind all this. And it's interesting because you realize too with these kind of things where pretty much all I was seeing on my social media really was with people who are really critical of this conference, right? So just pretty much why are these people invited? Seth Andrews was going, now he's not going. That kind of stuff. We just talked to Thomas Smith, recording for next week's episode of our podcast, where he's actually going to be there to debate Carl on stage. And how that's that was a tough decision for him to make, to still go and do that and represent sort of the social justice values and everything. But then I had a friend message me this morning, and he's a friend. He does a podcast. He lives over in the UK, and he was like, Natalie, I'm just going to tell you, I don't agree with what you said on your show, calling Armored Skeptic anti-LGBT or something like that. And it was just interesting for me to get feedback that was so different than, what I'm used to in my mostly sort of SJW type of world. I mean, have you seen anybody supporting these people's appearance there, really? Or because I haven't so much. I guess you got to make up for the potential people who aren't going to go to the conference, who are atheists, who, first of all, don't want to hear these people talk, and second of all, may not feel safe because they're talking, because I don't know. I don't necessarily want to talk as much about those personalities, because I feel like you can find out tons of information if you want. What's more interesting to me, of course, is you being able to talk to the organizers. I mean, because when you heard them kind of defend, the quote unquote listening to both sides, did you say, okay, I kind of see where they're coming from, and you're like, well, I wouldn't do it, but okay, you can, because it is your conference. Yeah, and see that, and that's the thing for me where I think it's having the conversation with them, but also, you know, I go into it with sort of my own, is it a bias, I guess, in a sense, based on my interactions with them as people, just thinking like, okay, I don't think that they're going into it with the intention to make people feel unsafe. I think they maybe think, you know, that people are better than they actually are, and that the people that they've invited are there for, you know, open exchange of ideas or whatever. I mean, I think part of it with, you know, organizing any event is inviting people who get attention, maybe. I don't know, like, is that an element of it where it's like, look at how much people are talking about this? I mean, is all, you know, is bad publicity? It's still publicity in a sense that they're getting. But I guess it's hard. It's hard because I like them as, like, I'm talking about the organizers, not the YouTube people. Like, to me, they seem like they are people that don't have bad intentions, and they want to see conversations happen. But do I think that these were the wisest choices of guests? No. And I've told them that, you know, on the show, but also in private, and more that, you know, we disagree on that, but I don't necessarily disagree on, you know, the idea of wanting to have dialogue with people who have differing opinions. I think these, you know, were kind of shitty choices of people to have those conversations with or give a platform to. But I don't know. I guess I don't know that their intentions were or are wrong. This has not played out very well for them at all.
No, I mean, there's definitely a good point about the publicity, and maybe people think they're trying to, you know, quote unquote, cash in, as they said in the show, nonprofit. So if they make money, they're putting it into future conferences, and conferences aren't cheap. Yeah. You know a little bit about putting them together. You got to get a lot of people there. You got to, you know, reserve places.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like sometimes having these conversations head to head are hard to do, but they need to happen. So it was good that you got to talk to them. I just don't know if there's going to be really, can Thomas and Carl have a conversation?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't.
Will their audiences be listening? They'll be like, I want my side to win. You know, we kind of want, like, we like Thomas. We want him to kick butt. We kind of want him to ask questions that we would hope we would want to ask, and maybe we'll get something. But it was almost like, can we have a conversation between, like, I don't know, it's almost like between Thomas and like Dan Arrow about punching Nazis, like something, I don't know. It's not, there doesn't seem to be as much on the line, but with this, yeah, there's this dark side that's out there that we have to acknowledge exists, but we need to invite it to conferences. Because I was thinking, you know, they're saying, oh, these people haven't been invited to conferences. I'm like, you mean the YouTuber people don't have conferences, or they need them because they have followers, you know, hundreds of thousands?
Yeah.
You know, Sargon was on Joe Rogan, who I think is the biggest podcast, if not one of them.
It's huge. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess a question that comes up for me too with people who have such a large audience is, you know, they can behave a certain way and adopt a persona, and I have to wonder, is the persona who they actually are? Like, if you were to have a conversation with some of these people, you know, no microphones on, you're not in a podcast, you're not on YouTube, whatever. Who are they really? I mean, does it matter? I don't know if it matters. I'm just kind of curious, because, like, what makes people behave this way? But they have all these followers who, I mean, I don't know, are you responsible for if your followers behave in a shitty way? Like, are you responsible for trying to, you know, use your platform for good? And I guess I question, say, the use of a platform by someone like Carl. Just, you know, kind of shitlording all over the place sometimes. I don't know. But I think it just brings up questions about I guess the idea of platforms, who deserves it, or what ideas should be given attention, how to best engage different sides in conversation. And I don't know, I feel like this whole situation, it's a discussion point for like, what is the best model for like having people engaged? Do I think bringing controversial YouTubers? I don't know. I don't think so. But now I'm curious to see how it actually plays out in reality. Like, what is that conference going to look like?
Well, in reality, your co-host Dan is going to be there. So are you expecting to get like constant feedback from him, and you want him to like do videos and stuff while he's there? You want to make sure you're okay. Put like, a little Dan, like you're not a little Nazi, hand right? signal if you're going against your will, kind of thing.
Just like, Dan, you need to wear a body camera. I need to see what's going on. But I am definitely going to be probably texting him, like we always text each other anyways. But just seeing how it's going. But because there's been so much attention on Thomas and Sargon, and then Shoe on Head and Armored Skeptic. But, our friend Faisal is speaking. He's part of another debate about, I think it's Islam in the age of Trump. And then like Melissa Chen is going to be there also speaking. And so there are other people that are going to be there having conversations that I'm curious about seeing, response to that too. That among all that other drama about the YouTubers, there are some other people. So
other people exist too.
Other people exist too, not just YouTubers.
It is true that in kind of North American type of conferences, atheist conferences, one thing the Mythicist guys said, it was like, we're having this debate about Islam and that's not even being discussed. Because that sometimes is a topic we ignore, and it's good that they're chatting about it. So we'll get the constant feedback from Dan, and make sure he's okay. And as we're at about 40 minutes, I'm going to do my very, very brief live read to before we get back to the live action. So we miss you, No Religion Required. You're coming back. You're supporting this show, so I try to let people know when they come on. So they're coming on, but while they're gone, you should check out this week's Serious Inquiries Only. Well, the first one, because a damn nonstop podcasting guy. He must podcast in his sleep, like talk in his sleep and do a show. Sleepwalking with Thomas Smith, coming soon. But Serious Inquiries Only, Thomas Smith and Stephanie Zvan talking about some of these issues that we have going on in our community. What's happening. And also Polite Conversations has Aina on, ex-Muslim, doing a show out of Canada, and she talks to a right-wing covering, not supporting Canadian, discussing why our media bends over backwards to give conservatives some love. Anytime there's controversy involving the right wing, somehow the left wing is oddly to blame. But that's enough of that nonsense. Now let's talk about, we've been talking about controversial stuff. We haven't even got to the most controversial stuff we'll talk about tonight. What is the chicken nugget controversy?
Oh, chicken nuggets. That was, I don't even remember when that was right now. I think that was in the spring. Dan's A Science Enthusiast page got shut down for some days after a lot of vegans reported the page because he posted a chicken nugget. Like, I can't even say this with a straight face. This is so fucking ridiculous. Like, he posted a meme that had a chick and chicken nuggets, and it said Transformation Tuesday because, like, a chick, turns into chicken nuggets. And like, he got mass reported by angry people over a meme about chicken nuggets.
I have never been reported, and that's a weird thing to be reported. I guess you have any page of any size, and you have an audience that's like, ooh, not happy. I know about the vegans. Maybe the Mythicist people should invite some vegans on, Hello, Eli, right there.
There we go.
Never talks about it.
So poor Dan had his Facebook page just shut down for a little bit because of chicken nuggets. This is like, the internet's a weird place. People get mad about everything.
Yeah, that is
everything. Chicken nuggets.
But you have your own solo project going on. So can you talk about the Science Moms movie? I got like a sneak preview version of it and thought it was amazing. And once it's available, people, you best be checking it out. But let people know, what is this all about? Kind of how did you decide, hey, why don't I do a movie? Podcasting, whatever, that's for amateurs. But a movie, that's where I'm at.
So the movie is the first thing that I started working on. It's Science Moms. It's a 30-minute short documentary that it's just an approach to sort of evidence-based parenting, where like we tackle different issues like food things like GMOs and organic versus conventional food, and medical things that, you know, every parent thinks about, vaccines and alternative medicine and homeopathy and all the things that, you know, all the pseudoscience that's out in the world that we want to just try to debunk and make parents feel a little bit more relaxed and not scared of everything, because being a parent and raising a tiny human is enough. You don't need to be scared about, you know, what's in vaccines or whatever. But I came up with the idea after reading a blog post on Grounded Parents. That's a sort of parenting type of blog on, I think that's on like the Skepchick network of blogs and pages. But it was this open letter to, you know how like celebrities like Jenny McCarthy and Gwyneth Paltrow, and they kind of get on the bandwagons of pseudoscience and stuff. This group of women who are also scientists, science communicators. There were some farmers on the list too that signed this letter, and they called it Moms for GMOs. It was written in the style of a letter to celebrities saying, you know, like, pretty much you don't know the science behind what you're talking about. Here's some science. Use your platform for a better purpose. You know, celebrities probably didn't read that and don't listen to that stuff anyways, but I thought this is a pretty interesting group of women, and this is a counter narrative to, you know, the Gwyneth Paltrow, Jenny McCarthy narratives out there about food and vaccines and all of that. And so I contacted the 5 women who were the authors of this letter, and I mean, that's just kind of it. It just it got rolling from there. Did a Kickstarter, raised the money to do the things like hire people to do the production work and shoot the film and all of that. And I, you know, just had the awesome experience of traveling to different parts of the country, interviewing these 5 women. And the movie is just about done. And I'm going to be showing it next month. And yeah, in 3 weeks from now, I'll be in Manchester in the UK to show it at QED. Probably like the best skeptic conference out there. So I'm really stoked.
Yeah, QED does sound pretty awesome. So what was it like getting not only like, hey, I'm going to go, but you're actually going to present there? Have you been to this conference before? Yeah,
I went last year. It was my first time in England, and so this will just be my second time in England. I went to QED last year, and it was amazing. And when I was there, I was thinking to myself, like, how rad would it be to get to show my movie here? Because for me, there's something about the UK skeptic scene that's just, I don't know, they're smart, they're humble, it's a really good vibe over there. And so I had interviewed Michael Marshall, one of the organizers of the conference. We'd interviewed him last year for the podcast. He kind of knew what I was up to. They showed the trailer for Science Moms last year at QED, which was cool. And I just kind of stayed in touch and sent him a rough cut of the film, and they want to show it. And I ended up, it ends up that I get to be on a panel, a science communication panel at QED also, where I get to be on a panel with Marsh and David Gorski and Britt Hermes, 2 other people that we've had on the podcast. And I don't know, it just feels really good to have worked on this project, and this is where I get to show it for the first time, and I get to be part of this conference. Whereas last year I was there just enjoying it as a guest, spectator. And yeah, life's kind of awesome and weird sometimes, and I'm really glad I get to do this.
Well, why is it so hard to explain to people that chemicals aren't the enemy and GMOs aren't necessarily the devil?
Because, well, people get scared really easily, I think. And to think that, well, the idea of chemicals, first of all, everything's a chemical. So, well, there's that. But
Water.
anything, water is a chemical. Everything is a chemical. But this narrative of, everything needs to be natural. Natural is better. To people, the idea of GMO is not natural. It's people think of, injecting like liquid into a tomato or something like those stock photos you can see online. Like people get into the fear narrative around these things because it is compelling. And the anti-GMO side of things, like the March Against Monsanto organization, or even like the non-GMO project who stamp their butterfly symbol on all their foods that, I see foods like clementines, or like little mandarin oranges, and with the non-GMO project label on it, and there's no GMO counterpart to that thing, but people have bought into the idea that non-GMO is better, that biotechnology is some, evil Monsanto thing, because the narrative around that, if that you're endangering yourself by doing this. I don't know, it's really compelling, but I don't know, science and scientists, I think it's up to them now, and science communicators, to present a better counter narrative where you connect with people a little bit more, and can use sort of appealing to hearts and minds to assure that, biotechnology is not gonna harm you. Vaccinate your children, get flu shots, do all that stuff. Like, science is not, it's not scary. It's not some boogeyman thing. It is why we have, an abundant food supply and why we live longer. I mean, even in the movie, one of the women, Allison, talks about how, people used to die from things like strep throat. We don't really die from strep throat anymore. Like, science has helped us, but people's appeal to nature and all of that, it can kind of bring you down and bring you back. Like, we shouldn't have measles anymore. We shouldn't have this stuff happening, but fear grips people. And so I kind of hope that the movie I made, and the fact that these women speak knowledgeably, but also I think with a certain approachability too, will give kind of the counter story to being afraid of everything. I hope, maybe.
Well, for those who can't make it to QED, will there be other screenings, or will people have an opportunity to see this movie?
Yeah, so I'll have it available for download on the internet probably shortly after QED, so mid-October. It should be available online for download, buy or rent or whatever. It's going to be at SciCon in Las Vegas at the end of October. So I'll be there, and 4 of the 5 women from the film will also be there. So we'll screen the movie and then do a panel at SciCon. And then I am also working on some other screenings. Like, I'm sure I'll do one like in New York City with New York City skeptics. I hope to be doing one at like Secular Hub in Denver, and just other, I'm hoping like universities, skeptic, secular organizations, those kind of places will host some screenings, but it will have a home like on the internet where people can watch it. So I want as many people to see it as possible, obviously.
And here's an important question from the movie. Who's paying you?
Oh man, I wish someone was paying me. I want my briefcase of money. I want my shill bucks, but nobody's paying me. No.
That's a question that came up to anyone who could dare say anything against the anti-GMOs. Yeah. It's weird to be this anti thing, because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And also, in your movie, you make a blueberry sound diabolical. So
right, although it's evil. There are so many terrible chemicals.
I should have brought a blueberry. I mean, gosh, without seeing
watch
one,
out.
No idea.
Never eat it again. Yeah, chemicals everywhere in blueberries.
Maybe this is the fault of like science fiction, but why is there like an assumption that science and advances are bad and that automatically bad things are going to happen and the Terminator is going to come in and kill us all because we have better food?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it? People like their mind goes from GMO apple to, yeah, like the Terminator's coming and it is the end of days. It's like taking it to 11 really fast. And I don't know, where does that come from? Aren't people supposed to be smarter? Think critically. Or is it just the fault of
That's your tagline
us
for the movie.
Come on, everybody, be smarter. But I think that really somehow it's ingrained that kind of progress or whatever, does it come with some kind of price? I don't know, but I think that critical thinking just in all areas, not just science, needs to be spread around and taught from a very early age so that maybe like when, my 2-year-old and 4-year-old grow up, they're not just automatic. Well, no, if they assumed that vaccines were bad and GMOs were bad, I would be really disappointed with myself as a parent. But hopefully that generation, though, will grow up able to think better and more critically so that we don't end up, depriving parts of the world from like really good, technology related to food because we're over here in the first world making decisions based on fear.
Personal research is not science. The fuck you say?
A Google search, right, is not the same as somebody's PhD. It's sad, I know, but it's true. And this is why, making this movie, I wasn't going to make a movie where I was just going to go talk about this stuff. I wanted to have people who know what the fuck they're talking about talk about these topics. Just like on the podcast, Dan and I talk about some things, but if we have a topic that we really want to dive deep into and cover, we get somebody who knows what they're talking about, who has done actual research beyond, our Google searches and prepping for the show. I just think it's important to have people know what they're talking about because we can all Google and find a lot of bullshit on the internet.
Well, it's important to underline, too. You say science moms. These are actual moms who are actual scientists as well. Mm-hmm. But why, maybe this comes into the whole skeptical parenting part. So why is it harder or seems harder to be a parent now? Like there's always something that you're supposed to be just scared to death about.
That's kind of what it seems like. And I don't know if it's that we have so much information at our fingertips and so many different points of view coming at us. We live in this era where, everybody's on social media and everybody's talking about how they do things. And there's a lot of pressure to be, I don't even know how you define it, but just a good parent or the best parent or whatever. And can't we just all be pretty okay and be, a little bit more chill and happy to have these little humans that we get to hang out with. But it seems like, is it that the more information there is, the more chances you have to see something to be afraid of? But I don't know, but it's so ingrained in parents. I used to work in a school. I was a teacher and then I was a school principal. And a lot of the questions that I would have to address with parents of the young kids were really things that had to do with the parents being scared. Like the conversations I'd have to have with parents of my 3-year-old students where the parents were just worried that they weren't reading yet. It's like, come on. Are they enjoying school? Are they healthy? Are they happy? Let's work on the basics before you have to start, worrying about everything. Or the parents who would come to me saying I'm concerned that the school doesn't just serve organic food. It's like, no, it's not it's not going to happen. It's not going to change. But people have legitimate worries and concerns over this stuff. And I guess it's, doing the movie like this, or, the women who are in the film, they all have their own like Facebook pages, or they write for, blogs and other things. We're just trying to get different messages out there to counter some of the things that you should be scared of. So I don't know, but I guess I feel lucky to have been raised by parents who didn't ingrain in me just that, I don't know, like, Natalie, you should be afraid of everything. My mom, I think, is just the way she is, has helped me not get into, like, not fall into the trap of being a fear-based parent. So I feel like I was fortunate enough to have that kind of baseline when I, had my own kids. And I feel fortunate to have found this group of women to feature in a film that they feel similar to me, because I was feeling like, oh, should I be worrying about more? Because that's the culture. But I'm kind of glad that I, went the other way and thought, okay, let me seek out people who are doing it more like evidence and science-based, because that made more sense to me. So
when you're getting ready to maybe edit your movie or getting ready to do an interview, do you have certain music you listen to get you either focused or pumped or ready to do this?
Oh, well, a lot of times when I'm doing like prep for interviews and stuff, I'm always listening to music. So some of my favorites are, I love like indie rock and like the emo bands I used to listen to in the earlier 2000s and stuff. So some of my favorites are, I love Motion City Soundtrack. I love Weezer's Blue Album and Pinkerton. Radiohead's The Bends is the best Radiohead album. Michael Schaefer will agree with me on that. We have discussed that. He agrees with that. And then I will sometimes just like turn on Spotify and see what playlists like they've created for me. And so it always ends up being stuff like Dashboard Confessional and Bayside and I don't know, just other stuff I played on my college radio show really is what it comes down to, I think. I'm still listening to that same music.
I don't know if this goes too far back, but I heard from a coworker today that Matthew Sweet's coming to Atlanta, and I'm excited because I listened to his stuff in the 90s. Maybe.
See, I didn't really. So maybe he's just a little further back.
It could be. It's possible. Maybe. I am aged.
Like I remember, like I know who he is, and I know who he is. So he's classic rock now, right?
Probably. Anything in the 90s, right? It's
like Nirvana's classic rock. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Which is weird that it's classic rock.
Well, we have exceeded our hour, and I didn't even get to ask you about your meme skills, so we'll have to. I guess we'll have to hold on to that, or maybe you can send me some selected ones. How can people find your podcast and, of course, your movie going forward? Maybe get in touch with you and say, hey, let's do a screening, or let's just give you lots of money because you're awesome, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. So if anyone would like to give me money because I'm awesome, so Science Moms has a Facebook page. Just search for Science Moms. There's a website, sciencemomsdoc.com. Science Enthusiast Podcast, we have a Facebook page. And then I also have another Facebook page, Skeptical Parenting, which just, it has more atheist and meme type stuff than Science Moms. So, and then I'm on Twitter at NC Newell. I'm all over the internet, so you can probably find me somewhere. Thank you for having me tonight.
Seriously, all over everywhere.
I'm all over.
Wherever good albums are sold, if they sell them anymore. But yes. So if you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh, Teody, Marissa, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Zachrilege, Zachrilege, and I can't even say I can still spell it after 2 beers because, not necessarily the case tonight. might speak better after beers. So follow me on Twitter at Zachrilege, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook. Send all love mail. And if you think there's anyone you know who's awesome will be on the show, Zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you to Natalie for being on tonight. For the listeners, watchers, and all that, stalkers, stay safe. If you need to chat, I'm available. If you're an atheist and feel alone, you are not alone. Reach out. Let's chat and get that human connectedness that keeps people coming back every Sunday. Stay skeptical. I love all y'all, and good night.